Going to be heating a shock dart, but he's able to makes it
win anything. Sam, defend your team because they haven't won.
Oh my God!
Strap yourselves in. It's another 1 hour episode.
Oh yeah.
Spike defused.
Hello and welcome everybody to this week's Press 4 to Defuse, your weekly spot for Valorant news, roster changes, Masters Copenhagen, and talk, stuff like that. My name is Possible. Hopefully you're all familiar with me. We're a little light on people this week as Sam and Mike have decided that they have cooler places to be. They're wrong though. This is the coolest place to be, as shown by our fantastic guest, Bo Hoogland. Thank you so much for joining me this week. You want to give yourself a little introduction for anyone who might not already know who you are?
Yeah, sure. I'd be like, thank you for having me here. It's an honor. So my name is Bo.
All mine.
I am a journalist in EMEA and APAC. I, for the most part, cover those parts, but I'm basically known as Mr. Worldwide when it comes to like information in Valorant. I'm also the manager for currently the best Danish roster in Valorant, which is called Cares, who is still missing an organization. So if anybody listens, please sign up, please. Thank you.
Yeah, get those contracts out, gamers.
Exactly.
You're gonna want that. You're gonna want that. I saw. Was it you with the sign at Master? I saw a sign that was about Cares. Perfect. You're already getting that branding. It's free marketing. Right? Come on,
yeah, exactly. We've been doing a lot of guerrilla marketing over at Masters 2 because it's Copenhagen, so why not?
Sure.
Advertisement for the best Danish team. It should be allowed, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm glad to have you here so that Sam doesn't yell at me for another week about not talking about EMEA stuff because I have no idea what I'm talking about. We have you for that, so it all works out perfectly. Let's go ahead and get into the last week of news with our segment Run It Back, brought to you, folks, by Temple University. And oh boy, we got to start off with franchising news. We got to start off with the heavy hitters. Let's start off with the positives, right? TSM, The Guard, C9, NRG, V1 are reportedly all shortlisted as making the next step of franchising. How do you feel about this, Bo Hoogland? I'm kind of in the boat where these are all orgs where it kind of makes sense that they'd at least make it to the next round.
Yeah, I mean, like, all you can say is, like, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of marketability, so it makes sense that they are still in the running. I'm a bit surprised about version 1, because of some things I've been hearing about the organization, but other than that, I feel like these are not surprising.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess, version 1 also the only team on the this shortlist here, this first one, to not actually make stage 2. They've definitely been struggling a little bit this year in terms of putting together a competitive roster, but the rest of these all pretty much make sense. There are a couple other names to add to this list as well. These ones were in a next tweet by George. Sentinels, Xset, both reportedly making it as well. Gen G is the surprising one for me. They do cite some uncertainty. They're not 100% confident, but it's still a shock to me that they're even in the running.
Something that I can probably share right now is I've been hearing a lot from my APAC sources that Gen G is looking more towards APAC currently. So they are very
That
uncertain
makes
about
sense.
their chances into NA and just the Americas
Sure.
League.
I mean, Gen G has a lot of like Korean teams as well,
Yeah.
right? Like originally a Korean organization. So that might be a little bit of a better fit. And it'd be good to get like another team to infuse cash sort of in that region too, right? Like there are a couple big names in like Korea, but yeah, I could see that being a pretty good fit.
Yeah, I feel like definitely Gen G, Dam1, and DRX are the top contenders for the Korean spots for APEC franchising. So, and if T1 doesn't make it, they'll probably be in line too. So, it all depends on who gets in.
Has it been announced how many Korean spots there are going to be for the International League?
There's a reported amount by Seogi. He says it is around 3 to 4. Which I am still uncertain about, but I do believe he has the right sources when it comes to like the franchising information.
And fair enough. It's all up in the air right now, anyways, right? Until Riot says something officially out loud to everybody, nothing is set in stone.
There's a lot of misinformation going around, and it sometimes like gets infused with the right information, so it's hard to find out. Riot is very secretive about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough, right? The moment you tell one person, everybody knows, but then you play a game of telephone, and by the time anyone figures out what's happened, it's very different from what was actually planned. Let's talk about teams that aren't so much making it. Knights. Confirmed to apparently not making it. They are reportedly trying to sell their main roster and promote their academy team. I'm actually pretty much for that, at least results-based analysis-wise. Their academy team's been killing it in like a lot of the tier 2 tournaments. So promoting them, making them like a more so tier 2 stay. We don't know what the tier 2 scene's going to look like for NA next year, but this at least makes sense from like an organizational move when you don't make the next stage of franchising.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's an expensive roster to keep like managing and everything, so it's understandable why they are trying to prioritize their academy division. But I'm quite sad about it because I know a few of like the players and the members of the Knights main roster, especially my good friend Slow. So I kind of feel bad for them that they are like getting sold right now, but hopefully they'll find a good home. I've already heard one player is close to getting a new home, so that's good.
Sure. And I mean, a lot of the players on that team are good, right? They have at least
they're all top players.
Yeah, exactly. They all have some semblance of like competitive history in Valorant, right? Like I look at Gangsta is the one that especially stands out to me, right? At least as someone
he's a veteran
with like pedigree and veterancy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and also like players like Ban has been popping off. He's been one of like the main points of discussion when it comes to Knights as a team. So I definitely feel like he's gonna get a home very quickly.
Yeah, with any luck. Let's go ahead and move on now. We're the guard. Let's move on to like the guards. How do I put this? PR stunt? Is that the right way to phrase that? That feels maybe a little heavy-handed in the drama, but they definitely went all out on trying to get their franchise spot. They plastered their name on the side of I always say the name wrong. Cronkite Stadium. Basically, the organization that owns the guard is like a giant sports org, right? And they have like their own stadium in LA, and they just went nuts. Plastering their name all over Los Angeles, right on top of the stadium with the Valorant logo and everything. I mean, shout out. That's one way to show Riot, hey, we're not struggling money-wise. We got plenty of funds. Don't worry about it.
That's the guard for you. So, I mean, like, you could already see it with how they have, like, operated the Los Angeles Gladiators. They have a lot of money, and they are always trying to reach the top. So, I'm not surprised that they are trying this level of marketability. And I feel like it is very effective, especially since the Guard is a new brand. And I find it amazing that they're already looking to be one of, like, the top brands in the Valorant scene.
Sure. Now I just want them to like put the guard from the guard. I want them to like shovel him out at a game in that stadium now, right?
That
like
would be funny.
Have him like interact with whatever mascot is normally in that stadium. I think that'd be hilarious. Get on it. Get on.
100%.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine?
It would be funny if it's just Josh walking around in that.
Exactly.
He's being paid like so many bucks for it.
That'd be fantastic. They have him break watermelons live in the stadium, right?
Exactly.
Based on whoever wins and loses. I don't know how much that might cost, but I'm sure they can pay his quote. They got the money. That's the whole point.
They've got the money for it.
Yeah,
so
perfect. Speaking of teams spending a little bit of cash, let's move on and talk about some of the analytical pickups that we've been seeing in the past couple of weeks. Let's start with Sentinels here, because I'm actually really excited about this pickup. I think this is really cool. Weltis Games joining Sentinels as a Valorant analyst. If you don't know who Weltis Games is, I would highly recommend you go to his Twitter. The guy has basically just spent this entire year posting like in-depth stat breakdowns of Valorant that recontextualize a lot of stats, and he does a really good job of pointing out specific stats he thinks are going to be important for individual matches, which I think is really cool, the way that he breaks a lot of this down, and he has very helpful like graphics, so even if you're as dumb as me, you can understand what he's talking about. I'm super excited for this pickup.
It's an amazing pickup, honestly. I feel like Weltis was pretty slapped on by other organizations. I do know a few who had interest in him. But yeah, I mean, like, he is a analytical genius. That man has so much fucking data. It's incredible. It's
crazy, right? I can hardly believe a lot of the time the information he's able to parse through and just arrive at like one thing, right? Those are my favorite. Those are my favorites, where he's just like, here's the stat I want to look out for before we go into this match, and it ends up being super relevant. So I think this is super good for Sentinels too, because it works for their style. You don't Sentinels don't really want an analyst that's gonna like come in and try to reinvent the wheel for them, right?
Yeah.
But
that is not
I feel like Weltis is the kind of guy who would be able to just give a direction to like Shazam and Raucus, like, hey, here's a stat that I think is going to be super important for this game that we're about to have. Let's make sure that we are focusing on how to make sure that goes well. And I think that gives just like a framework for Shazam and Raucus, mostly Shazam, to kind of do whatever they want, right?
Yeah, I definitely feel like Weltis is the best decision to as an analyst. There are other like analysts who like try to involve themselves too much with the decisions of the team, which reaches a negative point. There's also a lot of analysts who like over-explain stuff and very simple things that could have been said in very simple terms. And those are like annoying to deal with, I would feel, especially for Sentinels as a roster.
Yeah,
because like if you keep like over explaining things, the roster is not gonna understand it.
Yeah, fair enough. Sentinels aren't the only team making moves though. Guard also adding some support staff to their squad. They're gonna add Cupert as an assistant coach. Now, I wasn't too familiar with Cupert as a name before this pickup, but Bojerk, you actually had some insight on this one.
Yeah, so Cupert, he started off, the first team he signed with was Penta. Pretty like semi-big organization in the DACH region. He was a pretty good player from my experience, and he got picked up by Sector 1 for VRL France, where they performed less than like anticipated, but Cupert looked to be one of their best performing players. So I'm very intrigued to see his like transition into an assistant coach, because he also said it in his own like tweet. He's there to learn, so he is gonna be there temporarily, and then he's gonna return as a player, and he's probably gonna like take the things he have learned from his time over at the Guard and use it for his future in Valorant. So I definitely feel like this is an amazing pickup. I've heard a lot about Cupert. He's a pretty like very smart dude. So
nice.
I feel like he is a good addition.
Nice. Well, I mean, Mike isn't here, so I have to be the resident Guard fan. And quick, I'll hit all Mike's talking points. MCE, MCE, MCE. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're good then. We filled the quota from Mike while he's not here. I know that he would be excited to see more depth added to the back room to help MCE there. And I mean, Guard with LCQ coming up, they need all the help they can get, especially with a very middling stage 2. So I hope this is the right move for them. At least they're making some kind of moves that aren't in their roster too. Right?
They're also looking for an analyst now. So
they are. We're gonna get. Well, I mean, I guess we'll just. We didn't.
But I
even
feel
have
like
them to
it's
run anyway.
too late. I would honestly say. I feel like it's too late for
it does
LCQ.
Feel odd, right?
Yeah.
It feels odd to, especially since they just announced that they're looking for an analyst to add.
Yeah.
What? T minus 10 days. Something like that.
I don't think like
LCQ
the analyst is going to do much for LCQ. I feel like it's a future investment.
Yeah, which I mean is also a good thing, right? It shows that the Guard, no matter how LCQ goes, they're still like in it for the long run, which is what you want for a team that's cranking out as much cash for Valorant as they have been.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to some more. we gotta sprinkle in some of the good, like some of the awesome, some of the pickups, right? With some of the more dour news. So now we move on to we go back to the culling.
Oh man,
Dark Zero. This is brutal, right? So Dark Zero dropping their lineup,
really...
and they didn't even tell anyone.
Yeah. So I have like a very good how can you say it? Like I have a good connection with Dark Zero.
Sure.
They were the first like organization I reported about when I switched to like reporting. Okay. So it's kind of sad to see Dark Zero just leave the scene like that. I feel like the organization, they were like I feel like this is too rushed. This decision, I definitely feel like Dark Zero would have been good in domestic leagues, and they would have developed some great talent. But I understand why they have decided to not go and keep investing into Valorant, because it is expensive. It is expensive. So, but I definitely could have seen them like picking up some smaller players and just like do the whole like system of like training and selling.
Sure.
I definitely feel like Dark Zero would have been good in that position. But yeah, it's just really sad to see because Dark Zero is a great organization. So
they have been riding the struggle bus though, right?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised necessarily to see Dark Zero be one of the teams that, as franchising hits, right, starts to make big like wholesale cuts, considering that Dark Zero has been struggling even to put up results in like like tier 2 tournaments, like some of the Nerd Streets and Night stuff. The manner in which it seems that they have left is a little bit rough, right?
It's surprising seeing as how I've used to know like Dark Zero and how I've heard they are as an organization. So it's surprising that they are doing it this instantly. Yeah, and not just giving their players like opportunities to like start trialing and all of that and still be able to like get some money on the offside.
Yeah, very out of the blue. They're not the only org making changes though. Let's move on and talk about my favorite team, he said incredibly sarcastically, Gen G. They're making quite a bit of changes too. Rhyme is going to be exploring options. It seems not officially off the team as of yet, but it does seem like Gen G is at least moving that direction. Heading back to Europe, I think, I mean,
it was probably the best decision.
Yeah,
I would say.
Considering the state of things, I would definitely say that the quote unquote what were supposed to be big EMEA pickups for NA haven't really worked out so far.
No, but I also
between Rhyme and Eccles.
It is quite odd how Ryan was put into the team. He played some off roles, which he didn't play on in Europe. So I was quite surprised by the decisions that Gen G made, especially with Rhyme. And yeah, I just feel like he was heavily underutilized. So
yeah, now one of the things you got to learn quick here. I'm never gonna defend Gen G. Basically the moment I got on this show, I was like, "What is Gen G doing? Doesn't make any sense. Nothing what they're doing is working."
I mean,
out
like
for them.
Gen G's decision making has been lacking. I
It's
do
certainly
agree
been
with that.
questionable. It's been
It has been questionable. Yeah, totally.
Speaking
and I feel
of-
like
Oh, okay, keep going.
I feel like the Rhyme decision was a good decision. It was just a weird way to integrate him.
It should have been a good decision. It should have
Exactly.
worked out, right? Rhyme is a player who had a lot of potential for success moving into NA and stepping potentially into that IGL role, and then was just never really given the opportunity to flourish.
Yeah,
as
very
with a lot
wasted.
of Gen G. Speaking of, another Gen G player that had excitement for at one point and has been in Gen G jail, so I haven't really gotten to see him pop off too much. Nature, also LFT, allowed to explore their options by Gen G. Another giant player leaves the team. Definitely looking like Gen G. If they're not, I mean, they've reportedly made it to the next round of franchising, so they're not out of Valorant as of yet. But
yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye
on it. Sure.
Especially seeing how they are focusing a lot on the Apex scene, I feel like there is some signs that are pointing towards them not making it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So, but this like Nature. I don't know what it is with Nature, but he just hasn't performed to the level I expected him to. But that's just like a team issue, like overall. So,
I think a lot of that
know.
is Nature's been in like the Gen G jail since like late last year, right? I mean, that whole team has just been slide down to the bottom of the barrel. I
believe they had one NSG tournament or like Knights tournament where they actually performed decently.
They had a proving grounds, like a tier 2-ish. It was like top tier 2, bottom tier 1, where they got second place against FaZe. The proving grounds 20K back in March. Who else was in that tournament? Anybody of note? Oh, actually, okay, quite a few teams of note. So like, fair enough. They had one good placement in 8 months.
Yeah, I mean, like that's
they
that's
like
not
flubbed
enough.
out of like both the qualifiers for VCT pretty early on.
Yeah,
so,
it's just
not ideal.
Unfortunate.
Unfortunate indeed. Not the only unfortunate thing though happening this week. We get a little bit of a valley here.
We're gonna get all the negative things now.
We're gonna get
Just
them out of the way so
all.
we can talk about Masters and be happy later. Complexity also reportedly leaving Valorant, at least for now. They have left the door open potentially based on what they see in Valorant in the near future, but they are dropping their roster. They are not immediately looking to do more things in Valorant.
Yeah. Here's I'm not hating on Jason Lake, but I'm just saying thank God. That roster has not been performing at all. You gotta remember.
I already like you.
You gotta remember, Complexity is one of the top teams, top organizations in North America. And how the hell have they always been the gatekeepers of Tier 2? They should be the gatekeepers of Tier 1 at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just feels like it was just like there are some words I want to say, but I know I am just gonna like get really hated on and all of that. But I just don't feel like Complexity made the good decisions. It was just
They've definitely never done anything of note in Valorant, right? Like this is something where like I am being one of the few people who didn't follow Counter-Strike beforehand. Complexity, I like them leaving. I'm just like, yeah, okay, cool. They didn't do anything, right? But they didn't make a dent.
Yeah, it was just like it is so weird that Complexity was like keeping the like initial start of their roster still together. There were still like players left. I mean, like there was AGM and their coach Ruin who are still left. And I don't really feel like I feel like they needed a rebuild. Like
definitely
they could have rebuilt so many times, but they decided not to. And I'm very interested to find out exactly why.
And because even when they did rebuild, it never felt like there was enough of a rebuild.
Yeah, that wasn't enough.
Like
it was just a very weird situation, and it just feels like Complexity just honestly, it kind of felt like the organization didn't care.
Sure, I do think there's some solid players on that team too, right? Like
True.
I'm going to talk about Truo because Love me anyone who started in collegiate Valorant. And Governor too, right? Like I feel like both those players, along with some others, honestly, that have Peter-patted throughout the org.
I also feel like J. Cruel has been slept on a lot of times.
Great one too. Yeah, absolutely. Right. It just never felt like a team that actually worked together cohesively. So I hope those guys all find good homes, but I'm not too surprised to see Complexity out the door.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I'm just gonna say it right now, they're gonna come back 100%.
Sure. That makes sense.
I don't see a world where Complexity is gonna leave Valorant like for like an entire year. They'll be back 100%.
Well, with any luck, they'll be back with a little bit better results next time.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Let's talk about BBG, Built by Gamers. They have reportedly been denied a franchise spot. They are not doing the thing they're not immediately out. They were denied a franchise spot, but if you watch this video, they say, we want to stay in Valorant. We're looking to stay in Valorant. We need to know more about the domestic league before we make a full commitment, but they're at least not immediately dropping what they currently have in Valorant. They're trying to stick around, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, but I just feel like there has been a lot of times where BBG have fucked themselves over. It isn't really like that surprising that BBG didn't get into franchising. I mean, like I've heard multiple times like they were 100% set on they were gonna get into franchising, which I have been facepalming a few times about. But yeah, I feel like they definitely like fit into a domestic league. So I feel like they would be great in the tier 2 scene, and just promoting their academy team would be enough.
Yeah, I mean, so, they don't. Unless I'm misremembering, I don't believe the Built by Gamers actual roster is currently active. I don't think
some of the players went to I believe it was like Zero Marksman or
Zero Marksman.
One of those.
That makes sense. I think it's Zero Marksman. But their academy team has been doing really well, right?
They've been doing really good jobs. So I mean, like, I got to give it to them.
Yeah,
great job, honestly.
And that's the sort of thing where, like, in a domestic league, you can promote those guys for a contract that doesn't cost you out the ass like a lot of the franchising ones would. And then you can potentially, kind of play the money ball. Maybe sell those guys to some of the bigger tier 1 orgs when they inevitably struggle, and do really good job as a solid foundational team in Valorant.
Exactly. Yeah.
Moving on, a team that has decided to lose their foundation, or well, I guess not really their foundation. It's Cloud9. They're big. But they've decided to at least strike while the iron is hot. And quick, everybody's cutting their teams. Quick, let's get rid of the academy team.
I mean, like, this isn't really surprising. Their academy team has been decent. I mean, like, it's been an academy team, so I definitely feel like there could be another way to do this. But releasing them, yeah, sure. I mean, like, if you're uncertain about your future in Valorant, you should probably cut like the most cheapest part, I guess.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, though, right? Like, I feel like this entire team probably costs them less than a salary of a single player, like on their main roster, right?
Yeah, I agree with
so
that.
this just feels like a little bit opportunistic from Cloud9, right?
Yeah, it kind of feels like I feel bad for Poise, honestly.
Definitely.
Like Poise has been in the C9 like jail for so long, and I mean, like, I'm happy to see him like finally free so he can start competing with other teams.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean,
I've heard great things about their coach Vexel as well.
He's been like promoted to like the main roster, right?
Is he?
I believe so.
I don't know if I saw that.
I believe it was on Twitter.
Maybe.
I don't know if I was like daydreaming or something.
Vexel.
It must have been the whiskey.
I'm looking at Vexel now. Canadian coach for Cloud9. Looks like you're right. Yeah, no, actually, he is being promoted to the head roster. Okay, so I'm slightly less sad about this now. So good looking out. Yeah, okay, cool. The coaches have been promoted to the main team. Yeah, alrighty. Cool, awesome. Well, there's that at least. But yeah,
Some
guys
good
like
news.
Poise and
Thank God.
Nilly, I hope they find home soon.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, enough of the sad news, enough of the cuts. let's get to some happy stuff, shall we? Moving over to the game changer scene in Europe. Rix GG officially adding Lirelia and Ninu to this squad. I know if Sam was here, she would be super happy about this. She was waxing poetic about these two players finding a good home, and now they have one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't like heard a lot of Lirelia or Nino. So, but from what I heard, they are good players. So I definitely feel like these are good pickups after Rix has been making some changes. So, I mean, like, we'll probably see in the next Game Changers how they will perform.
Yeah, and I mean, they've been performing pretty well, right? I think they got second place in the most recent Game Changers series, and then second in, what was it called? The Medusa series? That was recently.
I believe
no,
that was Guild and what other org? Ascend.
Oh, okay. Well, they got
in the
far
Medusa finals, I believe.
in the lower bracket. Either way, good performances while these two have been on the roster, as far as I'm aware. So excited to see how this shapes up for them.
Yeah, completely agree.
Moving on, then let's talk about a little bit more Game Changers news. This time it's Coach Emil leaving Guild X here. How do you feel about this one? You sound like you have some opinions on it.
I mean, like, I really love Emil. I've met him over at Masters 2, and he is one of the most chillest and amazing person I have ever met. He is basically a more strict version of Doom Bros, and it really suits him.
You know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of Guild X was the team that made those finals. That's what it was, not Rix GG. Rix made it far, but lost to Guild in Game Changers. That's what it was. Sorry, keep going. Sorry, you were saying.
All right. Yeah, I feel like definitely Emil has helped the Guild X roster a lot. You see, they have been more structured, so I feel like he has done the thing. He has done what he needed to improve the Guild X roster, and he's now going for his next adventure.
Yeah, and that's what you love to see on a roster departure, right? Yeah. It's not just like we loved playing with him, we wish him the best in whatever he finds. That means, oh no, they don't have a home, but wish him luck on the next adventure. Somebody's picking Emil up. Somebody's doing it.
I wonder who.
I wonder who it might be.
It's not like it's been leaked like 27 times at this point.
Well, moving on, because I don't want to pick your brain about leaks too much. Let's stay in Game Changers. This one may be a little bit spicy. This one may be a little bit.
I haven't read all of it.
I'm gonna be honest. I have read all of it in preparation for this. It is a lot. We're already halfway through the show and we haven't talked about Masters yet. I don't want to get too into the weeds on this for a number of reasons, one of which I don't want to say anything wrong. But basically, these two players have been very active on social media, and the way in which they were active rubbed Riot the wrong way. And so they both are getting a competitive suspension, right? I believe Dawn is 3 months, and then Razora a little bit longer than that at 9 months. I think it's actually an extension too from one that she might have already had, at least based on the wording of this article. It's been a very interesting week in the NA Game Changers scene with a lot of different stuff. I'm just gonna kind of echo KP's sentiment here, which is along the lines of it feels like there needs to be a little bit more firm infrastructure for the Game Changers scene. Almost every tournament in NA, there's some issue with something that didn't need to be as complicated as it was. I mean, like, it gets a little messy.
Yeah, I mean, like, NA should take an example and look into, like, the European scene, where basically we take care of everything internally. We don't, like, if we have to, we'll post it on Twitter. But if we don't have to, we can just talk internally and get it fixed. So I mean, like, I
Sure.
don't know how hard it is to just talk things out internally. Like, how hard is it? How many times do you need the clouds? It kind of feels like they're just kind of like impression
Sure.
forming sometimes, but
I mean, sometimes I can understand why it would feel the need, like, especially if you feel unsatisfied with how things are being handled internally. That you would need to.
That's when I see like, okay, maybe it's a good idea to like share this on Twitter, because having the public on your side is very important.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Again, I'm a white guy. I'm not gonna go in and tell the Game Changers scene how to run their ship, but which is why I'm just echoing people who actually know what they're talking about. It just feels like there needs to be a little bit better support structure to avoid this sort of thing in the future. Let's move on to some more positive news again, though. We'll get right back into it. Interesting news at that. Recently broken news by a certain prolific journalist in the scene here. The Ignition series is set to return after Champions, at least in EMEA. So go ahead and break this down for us. Just tell us what this article is about here, man.
All right. So basically, Ignition series is returning as we remember, like the original way of Valorant esports as it started in 2020, where third-party tournament organizers got offered by Riot to make a tournament in Valorant. And I mean, like, that was probably the best way to start Valorant off.
Yeah,
I mean, like, it had some amazing moments, and it also had some very dominant moments. I mean, like, I remember back in the day with the G2, like, oh man, they were so dominant just because they were more aggressive than the other players.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
I mean, So question: is it returning under like the Ignition brand, or is it just okay? So it's the same concept,
it is gonna
same principle.
Yeah, it has the same system. And
Gotcha.
it just has a separate name. So from what I know, Blast is working on a tournament for them. I am unsure if it's going to be an invitational or something like Spike Nation. I hope not. I just hope like there are at least one or two open like qualifiers for it. Because like Blast has been very like exclusive.
Sure.
I mean, like, it's been very hard to like get in if you're a small roster,
right?
With Blast. But I've also heard that there is gonna be like a integration with VRLs. So that's interesting to see how that will go. I've heard like the integration with VRLs is very much linked with the DreamHack event. So by more information, I mean, like, I'll probably share it once I get it. So this article will most likely be updated at some point. So
that's your sign, folks. Go over, follow this guy on Twitter. Make sure that you keep up to date with this and everything else. Yeah, I got you, dude. I got you.
Thank you. I mean, like, it's amazing. I mean, like, not a lot of people shout me out, so it's amazing to get that feeling sometimes.
Well, you get as many shout outs as you want as long as you are guests in here. I will stroke your ego all goddamn day. Alrighty. Perfect. Well, that's some exciting tier 2 news. So let's move on to tier 1 stuff then, shall we? Let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about. Masters Copenhagen finished up this past week. We had our top 4 on LAN in front of a crowd. You were in that crowd. First thing,
I was in that crowd. Yeah.
I just got to ask, how did it feel? I have to live vicariously through you.
I mean, like, I and some friends of mine, we were at the start the only people who were like supporting FPX.
Shout out.
So you had a lot of people who like kept shouting like Fnatic, and then there's just our small group who just shouted out our lungs, just FPX, and it was just so amazing. Honestly,
that's that ride or die energy.
Yeah. And like Riot had some very cool ideas with the sound. Like there was surround sound. So if there was a shot on the left side, you would hear it on the left side. So they were very creative with the audio.
That's cool, actually. I feel like that's super important for a game like Valorant too, right?
Yeah, the experience was amazing.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that. That's so sick. God, I want to go. I want to go.
So the only negative thing that I had about like the venue and all of that, it was my neck hurts because the screens, they were like they weren't really the best if you were like at the front rows, because you had to just look up with your neck the entire time, and it got annoying. It got annoying, but
Sure.
hopefully they'll fix that in Istanbul, so like the front row people can also experience Valorant without having like their neck completely broken.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they've probably gotten some feedback on that already, right?
Yeah, probably, and hopefully water isn't gonna be that expensive. I mean, like I had to pay like I believe $4.12 for a bottle of water.
Okay. I mean,
In Denmark, that's considered quite expensive.
okay, fair enough. I mean, to euro, yeah, I mean, that's about stadium water here.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's just a bit too expensive for water, especially in the first day when it's really warm.
it was a heat wave recently too. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I need to make sure we're staying hydrated.
Exactly.
I live in a desert. I have to stay hydrated all the time. Let's get into the games though and talk about how those go, how those went. First up, the upper bracket final. A little bit of a surprise, actually. Paper Rex coming out on top for that one. What a weird series that was too.
I mean, like, I expected that, because
Sure.
like I already like knew that Optic weren't gonna perform on with an audience.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that was already like a feeling that I had before the event, and just seeing like that it was true all along was just bit funny. I feel like Ye hadn't his performance like he used to, which is understandable. But
I mean,
yeah.
Ye still did pretty well.
He
that
still did
series,
wonders,
right? He still did
But-
great.
Yeah,
It was everybody else's. I mean, on that first map, it was 13-3. 13-3 for
Yeah.
Paper Rex. Ye still went net 4 positive, right?
Yeah.
Like, the dude was 18-14. They won 3
he was still performing
rounds.
good.
He had more than 1 kill a round in a game they lost.
Yeah. That's
Like,
Ye
what
for
is
you.
that? A 1.2-ish KPR in a game that they lost? That is ridiculous. That is absurd.
Yeah, but sometimes when you watched him, you could see that like his aim was shaky at times. Like sometimes, like before the audience,
Mhm.
he could like land headshots the entire time.
Sure.
Most of the rounds, he had to like use 2 shots before he hit a headshot.
Sure, fair enough. Yeah. And I mean, Forsaken and Jing were absolutely on a level too, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, they were online, so like
They
they
absolutely
had
were.
they had the online buff. They had the COVID buff.
100%. Yeah.
So it was always fun to see them. And like that one round on B long where they used like the fade and Ray's ult, that was probably one of the
yeah.
most like amazing moments,
That was
because like
sick.
I started getting flashbacks from like another game, another certain game with a lot of abilities. So
that will remain nameless.
exactly. I don't know if I'm allowed to like mention it, so.
I mean, I literally cast Overwatch, so if you want.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, it's Overwatch. It's Overwatch, all right. I used to be in the tier 3 scene, so like I always get PTSD from that game.
We can compare notes after the show. We gotta stick on Valorant for this one though. And
Yeah.
you know, even as an NA fanboy, I can hardly be mad, right? Paper Rex is just so fun to watch, dude. They're
Paper Rex is
so
always
fun
fun
to
to
watch. It was so exciting to see them move on to the final, and joining them was FPX. What a run through the lower bracket! Unbelievable what Fun Plus Phoenix were able to accomplish. I mean, I was somewhat high on FPX coming into this. I was a little bit nervous, obviously, with the like the potential subs, right?
Yeah.
I think I had them 3rd in my rankings should they actually have their full roster, and even that was too low. Damn, so guess who showed up? And Fun Plus Phoenix, they were on a level, dude. That was
Yeah,
damn.
I mean, like, Suigetsu is just too good.
He's so good.
I mean,
man.
he's literally from another planet. I have never seen a Sentinel perform on this level.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
it's
I'm pretty
insane.
sure he topped Nats at this point.
There's a I would be interested to see the stat comparison between like Nats at like last Masters Masters Berlin versus Suigetsu here. That would be an interesting comparison.
Yeah. I mean, like, Nats, he performed good. Yeah, sure. But, like, holy... Suigetsu was, like, top performing the entire time. And he wasn't even, like, on chamber or anything.
On the Killjoy and the Viper, right? Super impressive. I will always swoon over any phenomenal Viper player. Viper, I was one of those guys who was toting Viper back before the buffs came in that made Viper just absurd. So watching guys like Suigetsu is just, it's an absolute heartthrob for me.
I'm kind of sad that Fnatic didn't get to the finals, mostly because of the amount of investments they put into Copenhagen. They got an entire like cafe where they were giving out like Fnatic merchandise, and it was honestly pretty fun. And I kind of like took a few of their merchandise. I mean, like you can already
sure. So how do we
wait? This way. No. Wait.
Hold on.
All right. Should be that.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
So there's a jacket with like most of the players who have signed it, except Boaster, because it was impossible to get an autograph with Boaster.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I imagine the guy was swamped all the time.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Fnatic though in this like last series of their international performance? Until we get to see them later at Champions, right? Obviously like a really competitive map won, but then Bind and Fracture kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean like it was a weird match, honestly, from Fnatic. I do feel like they kind of went down with like the pressure.
Sure.
So
it's hard to play in front of that crowd first time, man.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and especially for Alphayear. But Alphayear, he was still performing really good.
Yeah.
So I definitely see Fnatic making it into the top 2 for champions. That's my hot take.
I mean, Fnatic was kind of everybody's team to watch for this tournament, though, right? Like, everybody came in and was like, "Oh, Fnatic, they're the tactical geniuses. They're amazing. They're like, there's no way they're ever gonna lose."
Their run was amazing, and everything, and then there's just that match. It just went downhill, I would say.
Well, and we only really got to see them for 3 matches, right?
Yeah.
We got to see a very impressive performance against a not full FPX. Kind of crumpling against Paper Rex. Paper Rex did Paper Rex things and just ran over
Paper Rex is just Paper Rex.
They're just insane, right? And then pretty solid. I think this was an okay match to end up on. Obviously not the performance Fnatic were hoping for as like one of the tournament favorites, but I wouldn't go so far as to say disappointing.
I would say like the last map was pretty disappointing.
Yeah, that Fracture was a little rough.
Yeah, but other than that, it was still a great match.
And there were some weird like miscommunication issues in a lot of those like very high tense situations, right? Where obviously you can be prone to that. But I'm hopeful for Fnatic bouncing back at Champions. So we'll see how that goes. Then we got to get into the lower bracket where I start sobbing. Optic once again failing to beat even a single EMEA team.
They got a map.
At least they finally got a map. I mean,
like you got to give it to it. But man, I mean, like FPX was probably like the worst team to go against for Optic because like they are a direct counter to what Optic is as a team.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. As like someone who watched Optic very closely this whole tournament, that definitely felt like the most out of sorts that I saw them. Other than like that very first map versus Paper, it's like that very first map versus Paper Rex, and then almost the entire, at least the first 2 maps versus FPX, right? There were some weird like comm issues. It felt like everybody wanted to go for a hero play all the time. There was very little like waiting to regroup for retakes. Very little like they basically didn't use utility much at all to stop FPX in a lot of those early rounds. And it was shocking to me the difference in like the first 40 seconds of a round that FPX could take map control with like two cheap utility, like bits of utility, and Optic would just do nothing.
Kind of felt like watching a CS:GO team versus an actual like Valorant team.
Right? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's not a bad way to put it.
They were relying too much on Ye, I would feel.
And that always is the worry with Optic, right? People always talk about like, oh, what is Optic if Ye doesn't show up? What is Optic when Ye does show up and the rest of the team isn't there?
Exactly.
It's not enough at this point. At the highest level of Valorant, it's not enough for Ye to be popping off because he's still popping off. The dude still goes +10 this series, right?
Yeah.
They lost the vast majority
and teams
of
were just
rounds.
heavily countering him.
Exactly. Even getting countered, Ye is still doing well, and the rest of the team just isn't able to snowball that success into round wins. I feel like there needs to be some sort of refocus on what Optic wants to do when Ye is the focus of the enemy team.
So,
but I digress.
I have a hot take. I have a very hot take, and nobody agrees with me on this, but Optic needs a roster change.
Ooh. That is a hot take. That is a hot
take. That is a very hot take.
I can see where you are coming from. I am not going to go so far as to agree with you, but I can see where you are coming from. I think
Thank you.
After...
You're probably the first person who actually said that, because the most people, they were just, you're brain dead. Literally.
I think it's hard to make
it's hard to find a replacement.
It's hard to find a replacement that is going to work in this team, right? Is going to slot into this team and synergize, and is going to perform at the level that this team needs, right? Where you can justify the replacement. Because the problem with replacing people on this lineup is that even though it was a middling tournament from some people that we expect to perform highly, you know what the peak looks like for a lot of these players. So I think it is hard to justify replacing anyone on this team, but I can see at least where you're coming from.
Yeah. You want to know who I want to replace?
Oh boy. Do I? Go for it. Go for it. Hit me with the full spice.
I would seriously consider looking for another option in place of Victor.
In place of Victor. Now that's an interesting one.
He has been rock solid, but he's been also inconsistent in like the heat of the moment.
Sure.
He's just like he plays good, sure, but he also has his moments where he just completely throws the match.
I don't disagree. And I mean, Victor was one of the, when I talked a minute ago about like people who were going for hero plays, Victor definitely made top of the list, right?
Yeah.
But that also, I don't know if that's necessarily, I mean, part of it's symptomatic of Victor, but part of it's also like the characters he plays, right? That fit into this team. Like the Neon, you're gonna dive in a lot of the time.
You want to know who I actually want him to
be replaced? You have an idea of
I have
an
an
idea
idea
in there,
and it's not somebody from America.
Full into the weeds. I love it. Go for it. Give me.
I would seriously think Optic would win champions if they got Meteor from Northception. He has probably the best Neon.
Does Meteor speak
in
English?
international? Yeah, he's pretty good at English.
Okay. Well,
his English is decent.
It's an interesting one, right?
It's an interesting one, yeah.
It's hard to replace Victor, especially now that Optic have sort of made this Neon like part of their core identity.
Yeah, that's the issue. And that's why I want Meteor, because Meteor has probably the best Neon in international play. If I had to like choose somebody else, it would be Jugi, but like he doesn't really convey the same flexibility as Meteor has. Meteor is very flexible. I mean, like he played a lot of different agents back in his day on TNL.
That's one of those. I think that's one of those moves where if you look at it just like pure, like in game wise, right?
Yeah.
I think you're making some sense, but that is never a move that is ever gonna happen. You're never gonna pick up Meteor, dude. This is like full homebred NA squad, right? There's just absolutely no chance they're gonna be like, we need to get rid of one of our like name brand players. Who do we get? Let's get someone from Japan. Like, Optic is never gonna do that.
I mean, like, all I can say is Meteor's cheap. All right, guys. Meteor isn't that expensive. You could just ask North Reception, please. Please.
All right. Well, let's move on from me crying my NA tears and you doing your crazy tinfoil hat roster moves. Let's go to the grand final because we finally got it. We finally got the Map 5 banger final we had all been waiting for. And
this is the best match.
What a
ever.
weird final it was.
It was so fun.
What a weird Map 5 final it was, dude. But how fun was it? I can only imagine how fun it was watching this in the crowd.
It was really fun. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that I've never had that much fun in an arena to watch, like, an esports match. Like, in Counter-Strike and... have I been to a tournament in Overwatch? Oh, yeah, Apex. So, I mean, like... Nice. It has been like it was an amazing match. It was probably the best like esports match I have watched live. So definitely feel like the surround sound was a great help.
Oh, I can only imagine. Oh, yeah, I see Vansili in the chat. Oh, Vansili's grilling you on the media.
Oh no!
4 times Neon in 90 days and best Neon internationally.
I'll just say this right now.
Small sample size.
I'll just say this. He's insane in scrims.
gotta get those scrim bucks rolling, dude. Gotta get them out here. Oh, jeez.
I just love Meteor. I just want him.
He was really fun to watch.
He was always fun to watch. Exactly.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like Optic needs a joyous whimsy.
I think every team needs just a little bit of joyous whimsy. I mean, if anything, Paper Rex have proved that joyous whimsy can get you all the way to the finals. Can it win you a final? I'm going to look at their Breeze comp and I'm going to say no. It can't win you a final. Not in and of itself, but it'll get you to the final if you have enough.
It was pretty effective at the start, but the rest of it was just no.
Man, like there's so much to talk about in this series, and I just I can't every time I look at this series, my eye just immediately goes to that Breeze. Like it was just, huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
The Breeze was very interesting to say the least.
Yeah. Well, and
the composition was just like it was like something that Slow had cooked up and like tried in scrims for one time and gave up on it.
It was some maniac shit.
It was some maniac stuff,
right?
And I'm pretty sure that every single team I've talked with, they had no idea that they were gonna run that. They haven't seen it in any scrim with him.
I don't think Paper Rex knew they were gonna run it. That's not a comp that you practice, right? We're going to map 5.
They had some big brain moments with like the Neon Yoru.
Let's do something well. They absolutely did.
I definitely feel like Neon Yoru should be considered a top tier duo.
I think Neon Yoru, especially when you add the fade into the mix, right?
Yeah.
The fade allows like a lot of that high tempo plays from Yoru and Neon that would be given away by sound, right? When you have like the Nightfall, to increase in versatility. Now the problem is you only have the Nightfall up so many rounds.
No, like the problem was they were playing one of the biggest maps in Valorant.
That as well, right? The craziest thing about this comp actually isn't even like the Neon or the Yoru to me, right? Because I've seen teams run Neon and Yoru on Breeze. Now generally it's been one or the other.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
I've seen it, and I think running like even losing the Viper, right? You have the Neon. The fast lane provides something similar in utility to the Viper. Now, is it as reliable as the Toxic Screen? No, but it's at least the same concept, right?
Yeah.
The wildest thing is the Breach to me, man.
The Breach.
This has never once in the history of Breeze ever been a Breach map.
It was a weird decision.
I cannot fathom why because I think if you slot a KO into this comp, I'm suddenly like, yeah, it's weird, but I can see what you're doing. But I cannot fathom the Breach. The ult doesn't cover the sites. The fault line doesn't have any good lines, right?
It felt
even
like
the Aftershock struggles on this map. It is just a wholesale weird pick. And I mean, Devi did well, right, on the map. I don't want to discount Devi, but just a weird selection.
Divine or Divide or I don't even know. Everybody keeps like mixing it up. Is it Divide or Divine?
There's no N. So I think it's just Divide.
Okay,
At least
so just
as far
Divide.
as I'm aware. It's D4V41. So I don't think it's
Okay.
Divine.
Okay,
Pretty sure
because
it's
like some
Divide.
people kept saying Divine.
Interesting. I'm pretty sure it's just
but
Divide.
like Divine had an amazing like first map and against Optic. That was like probably like
Dude's
didn't
cracked.
he like get one of the first aces? No, that was Forsaken.
I think it was Forsaken that got the
Yeah.
ace. Yeah.
That was probably one of the most amazing parts about LAN. Basically,
Oh my God,
everybody
an ace on
when
LAN.
you started getting like 4 kills, everybody started chanting ace, 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 ace,
Sure.
ace. And when it got stolen, everybody was like, "Oh no!"
Unlucky. Unlucky, truly.
That was
Oh,
probably like the funniest part about the entire event, and it's something that I see only like Valorant having. So that's something exclusive for Valorant,
I love
and it was just amazing to see. Like everybody agreed on like when the ace was coming to just chant ace.
Yeah, you gotta give him the ace.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
Oh man. What a final, though. What a grand final. We are coming up to the end of our show here, so we got to quickly... Oops. Sorry, Sam. We're cramming in EMEA at the end again. Let's move on from Masters and talk about the VRL finals. The Regional League finals start tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. That's actually where Sam is. She's off in Berlin this week casting those, so we miss you, Sam. Good luck casting. But how are we feeling about this? XL Vitality 10-star at the very... Like... I can't even keep up with VRLs 100%. Even I know that this is looking spicy.
Yeah, so I have like one contender and one contender only. Vitality is going to win it all.
Fair enough. Why do you think that is? For our
I
NA
feel like
boys like me.
All the other VRLs have been downgraded this season. I feel like, and especially from like my experience in Polaris, I feel like XL has downgraded. I'm not trying to like shit on Foxy's like IGL capabilities, but I kind of felt like they were a bit more lost than normally. I mean, like we got a lot of rounds from them just making some miscommunications. So, and I feel like if Foxy is able to like communicate with his team as well as like Aussie did back in XL, I definitely feel like they can be a contender to win it all.
Sure.
But currently, from what I've seen, they'll probably be at the grand finals, but I mean, like they'll probably lose to Team Vitality. I mean, like Vitality is just so good. But 10-star is probably my dark horse, I would say. U-Break is just insane.
You're telling me that you used to be a tier 2, tier 3 Overwatch EMEA person and you're not rooting for Angry Titans? What's wrong with you? I'm kidding.
I like Angry Titans. I like them. They've kept their core of their roster for a long time.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Vitality's just so spicy, right? I mean, literally even as someone who isn't able to 100% keep up with EMEA, I know every name on this roster. That's all.
It's a cloud team.
It's a cloud team.
It's a cloud team, but it's a damn good cloud team.
It's a could have made like actual VCT team.
Yeah.
Right. Like if this team was, I don't know, if they were together in time for qualifying, but you know, I would take this team.
Vitality had another roster before that. They had like Kada and Brams and like all.
I would take this current Vitality roster over like BBL, right? So not terribly surprising there.
Oh, you need to watch out with that opinion, honestly.
Do I?
Yeah. I mean, like, there are a lot of BBL stands, so keep an eye on that.
What are they going to do? Swim across the ocean and beat me up?
Probably.
That'd be funny, actually. It's worth it. I'd pay to see.
I mean, like, I'm already a bit scared for like the Turkish scene because, like, I've heard some people that quite hate me over there, but I'm still gonna try to get to Istanbul.
Hey, fair enough. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today, man. But we are wrapping up here, folks. That's gonna be it for this week's Press 4 to Defuse. Before we go, where can people find you, Bo?
People can find me on Twitter at Bo Hoogland or just Bodork on Twitter. And yeah, I usually just shitpost and make reports and hint about stuff, but never actually report about it because I'm not allowed to. And yeah, I mean, like, that's basically me.
NDAs do be a bitch.
NDAs are so annoying, honestly. I want to know every single juice, but I have to sign a damn contract for it.
Sam, I already shouted you out. When we started talking about VRLs, I shouted you out. You get one. You get one when you're not here.
Only one shout out.
You got to show up to be here to get more than one shout out to get that second one going.
Exactly.
But yeah, go make sure you guys are watching the VRLs tomorrow. Sam is absolutely going to kill it. It's going to be a really great show, to be sure, despite how much
I'll probably join one of the watch parties.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Look forward to see that, too. So make sure you guys are watching that. Make sure you join us here next week when Sam will be back. And we're going to be breaking down stuff for LCQs, which are coming up. So thank you all so much. This has been Press Forward to Defuse. We're live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And until next week, have fun with your Valorant games, and we will see you soon.